If you enjoy this video and would like to hear more of my stories, please click like and subscribe to be notified of when I release a new story. Making big money the naughty way and Nottingham Forest away. At this period in my life I was still working in a warehouse. It was hard physical work and 6 a.m. starts, but I was finished at 2 o'clock every day, which was great because it gave me time to go to midweek away games. And the money was actually very good too. I was a forklift truck driver within the warehouse. I was young with no responsibilities and a lot of cash in my back pocket. I was seeing a Chinese bird at the time too. Well, her parents were Chinese. She was born and raised in England. A right little darling she was. Her mum and dad owned one of the best takeaways in town, by the way. The only slight problem I had at work was my reputation was growing as a football hooligan within the warehouse. Everyone knew what I would get up to on a Saturday night. The younger lads loved it. Some of them was involved themselves on a minor scale, and we loved a bit of banter about it all. But the older guys, aged 45 plus, looked at me like I was dirt. At the time, football hooliganism was all over the news, pretty much every week. Pubs in town was getting smashed up, people getting hurt, all that sort of thing. One guy in particular was not having me at all. An Irish guy, let's call him Tony. I think Tony was from Dublin. We never actually spoke properly because he didn't like me from the get-go, and I am one of those people that, if someone doesn't want to talk to me, then fine, I will never make any effort with you. But through hearing him talk in the canteen, I know that every holiday he got, he would go back to see his family in Dublin. So, he didn't like me. And I wouldn't even acknowledge his existence. Have you ever had that weird, awkward feeling at work? When you don't like someone, you don't talk to them, but you have to walk past them, just you and him. That's what it was like. It was every day. Anyway, what made things much, much worse was I went to the famous Ireland against England friendly. The one with all the trouble at Lansdowne Road in 1995, when England took an absolute liberty. When I got back to work, I was buzzing about it, and the younger lads asked me a million questions. I told them all about it, booing their national anthem, the songs about the IRA and all that. Well, Tony heard me talking with excitement about it, and it killed him. I sensed he wanted to have it out with me, but I don't think he had the bottle to do anything physical. What he did start doing though was every day, when we would all queue up to clock out, he would say things loudly like, someone should put him in his place, and one day he will get what's coming to him. All his mates at work, part of his posse, would just laugh, and to me, if you are saying things like that loudly at me, then you are fair game. I bit my tongue and bided my time, but I clocked everything he would say. Every now and again, we would all play football together on a Thursday night. We would hire out a brand new AstroTurf floodlit facility. It's a bit like the Goals 5 aside places they have now. Sometimes Tony played, and this time he turned up. Time for my revenge. We would always have 2 different captains every week. I made sure the captain this week, one of my mates put me and Tony on different teams. Sorted. After about 5 minutes, I put myself in a position to be in a 50-50 tackle with Tony. I had no intention of going for the ball. I dived in 2-footed, over the top of the ball, and smashed him. He was rolling around, and everyone jumped in, and a couple of older lads grabbed me, pushed me away, and called me a prick, that type of thing. It all calmed down, and the game carried on. Tony's team had a corner, and to be fair to him, he walked past me and nudged into me, then stood on my foot. The ball came over, and we both went for the header, and he elbowed me in the face. He cut my lip open. I didn't cry about it. I actually respected him a bit more after that. But it wasn't over. I had to get revenge, again. My mate was laughing and winding me up, saying that Tony had done me and embarrassed me. It was a laugh and banter, and I played along, but deep down it felt like Tony had taken a liberty. Throughout the game I would walk past him and make comments about the IRA and other insults. But he would just look at me and smile. It was almost like he wanted me to smack him. Didn't really get another chance to do him in the game, so I waited for him after the game. Most of us would drive to the venue on our own, not me. I only lived 2 minutes away, so I would walk it there and back, but Tony drove. Nearly everyone had cleared off home. The floodlights had gone off, so it was dark. Tony was having a fag near his car, standing up against the wall. I went over to him and said, "What's your problem?" He replied. You jumped up little prick," I said. "Come on, then do something about it." He said something about me thinking I'm hard, but wouldn't last 5 minutes in Ireland. I wouldn't last 5 minutes in Ireland. I have just been to Ireland, and took the absolute piss out of you lot, you div, I said. Tony pushed me straight away, so I punched him in the face. His fag flew out his mouth and he knelt down holding his cheekbone. I only hit him once. I kind of felt sorry for him. Plus I was thinking that I was going to be in big trouble at work the next day. Tony had been there for years, decades even, so everyone would be on his side. I was just the football hooligan there. Tony was part of the furniture. As he was holding his cheekbone, I said, "Do not ever say another word about me again," and left him to it. I was dreading the morning. I just knew I would be called into the gaffer's office as soon as I got to the warehouse. But to my surprise, and fair play to Tony, he never said a word to anyone. Nobody knew. I don't know if it was embarrassment or what, but he never told a soul, and neither did I. Not even my mates. I didn't tell anyone. And as far as I know until this day, nobody has ever known that I gave Tony a clump. I still didn't like him, and I'm guessing he didn't like me. But I do respect him. We never had any sort of confrontation again, even at football. He stopped making comments as we were clocking out, and I left him alone. The other side to work was, I was being very naughty, and making a lot of money for myself by loading up a pallet of biscuits, taking it out to the service yard in the forklift, and putting it over the other side of the fence. Then after work, going around the outside of the building and getting the boxes of biscuits. I would then sell the boxes of biscuits to the market traders in town. This probably doesn't seem like a big money maker, but honestly it was decent money. Apparently it was hard for market traders to get brand new biscuits, still boxed up in large volumes, with great sell-by dates on. I think I would get about 10 quid a box back then. It was the mid-90s, but I would do 4 or 5 boxes a time, so I would get 50 quid a time. Sometimes I would do it twice a week. I worked in a huge warehouse, and believe it or not, 4 or 5 boxes of biscuits going missing wouldn't raise suspicion. Stock would often get damaged, and so on. There was all sorts of rackets going on at that place at the time, but that was the only thing I was involved in. I heard about other scams though, involving larger scale pallets on the back of wagons, but I kept my nose out. But I know someone was making big money. I never got caught, and it went on, but I don't want to go into that much further. At the same time as all this was going on, my girlfriend had just got back from a trip to China with her mum. She knew how much I loved my clothes, so she bought me back some designer gear, top brands. It was all moody stuff, but very good quality. I had never seen anything like it. I remember thinking to myself, if I could get my hands on this myself, then I could sell it on and make a bit of money. So I spoke to my missus about it, and she spoke to her cousins. And auntie, back in China, they said that they could get hold of anything we wanted. They knew lots of people that worked in the clothes factories, but you would have to buy in bulk, otherwise the people in the factories wouldn't entertain me. They would send pictures through email, but there was a minimum order of, I think it was 30 pieces of items for anything I wanted. But the prices were so low it was ridiculous. I didn't have an email at the time, but my missus did. She had to do a lot of the admin and translation stuff for her parents' takeaway shop. I think she kept in touch with her family back home via email too, so she said she would get pics of all the garms from the warehouse. So after a while I started importing designer clothes from China. Now this was the mid-90s. Honestly, I don't know anyone else that was doing this at the time. I don't want to go into brands I was selling, or the volume and prices I was selling, but I was doing very, very well with it. I sold a lot of stuff at work to the lads. They couldn't get enough of it. The stuff was flying out as soon as I would get it. The shipping took an absolute age at the time, but I was making a lot of money. After a couple of years of just selling to friends, I started putting stuff on eBay. You could get away with it, then right at the start they had nothing in place to tell if their stuff was moody or not. So I done very well on eBay for about a year, then it got on top, and got my account closed. I would open another one just to get that closed. Then eventually PayPal just froze my account, so I knocked it on the head. Under the floorboards in my bedroom at my mum's house, I had a few grand in notes. I would use that to go shopping and get all my designer clothes and spend it on away games, staying over every time we went to a decent city. Now and again, I would go shopping to London. I found a great little place by Piccadilly Station. I think it was called Hurley's or something. Like that, I also loved doing Selfridges. We were playing Nottingham Forest away in a couple of weeks' time. I had never been to Nottingham before, but I do vaguely remember as a kid what a great team they were, and they were my dad's second favourite team, and he loved Brian Clough. I also remember seeing Brian Clough on TV, punching pitch invaders and thinking to myself, what a legend. I have been a fan ever since. The boys seemed hyped up for Forest away. I was excited because I loved an away day, especially if I hadn't been to that particular city before. We had a debrief in our private room in the pub, getting numbers down and deposits for the coach. As per the pub landlord would sort the travel arrangements, but wanted deposits up front because there would always be lads saying, "Yes, I'm coming in a cert," then not showing up on the day, which meant we would have to fork out more for the coach. I hated letdowns. Anyway, it was match day. We all met at 9:30 in our local. As normal, the landlord's missus sorted us a full English breakfast, and, as normal, lads turned up with plastic carrier bags full of cans of beer for the coach. We did a head count and waited an hour for everyone to arrive. Surprise, surprise, we had a couple of letdowns. I could never get my head around how people could give it loads all week, saying how much they were up for it, only to let you down on a Saturday morning. You are either in or out. There's no in between for me. It should be like a brotherhood. All the main faces were here anyway, so we set off. We would stop in a place called Beeston. The pub was called the Nursery or something like that. You have to forgive me on names of pubs. I try and recall the names of pubs and places. I haven't got a ghostwriter helping me out like most lads have that write books. It's just me and my not so sharp memory. Anyway, as per, lots of banter on the coach, a few sing-songs, drinking our cans, playing cards, and reminiscing about our best away days. Finally, we got to Beeston and the Boozer. Not sure if it was just a place for away fans only, but there wasn't any Forest fans in there. Our main lad got in touch with the Forest executive crew and told them our numbers and asked if they fancied meeting us offside somewhere. They asked what pub we was in. To be fair to them, they said that we were still a little far out, and gave us a location to meet in an hour. They were up for it, so was we. Our main lad knew the Forest main lad at the time. I won't name names, but they knew each other from England games. Our lad spoke very highly of Forest, but said that they had been hit hard with banning orders, and the government, police, and Nottingham Forest Football Club themselves had come down really hard with the Forest lads, and it had a big impact on numbers that they currently had, a shadow of their former selves in terms of faces, but did have a decent youth squad coming through. We absolutely had every intention of meeting the Forest executive crew and having it out with them, especially when we knew how many numbers they had. We fancied our chances, and to be honest, I just presumed they would have a bigger firm. Nottingham is a big city and had been a successful club, but we thought we could get a result against them. But around 10 minutes later, one of our lads let off a CS gas canister in the pub for what he thought would be a laugh. The pub ended up getting evacuated and the old bill landed before we could get away. It was things like this that really made my blood boil, and one of the reasons why our firm would never be taken seriously. Too many brain-dead divs that travelled with us, but never really wanted the row. Just hangers-on that have never thrown a punch in their life, but carries CS gas and let it off in a public place for a joke. I thought we would all get nicked. At the very least, the old Bill now knew some of us had CS gas. Our main lad wasn't happy either, and dealt with the lad that let off the canister personally. He never travelled with us again. We all threw our canisters over a wall near the pub, as the old Bill was talking to the landlord. If they would have searched us as soon as they got to the pub and spoke to the landlord, they would have had us banged to rights. It was a massive let-off and we got lucky. Not nice to see scarfers kneeled over outside the pub. choking, some gasping for air, eyes streaming. It was out of order. The old Bill questioned our main lad and 4 or so other main lads after talking to the pub landlord. That incident had effectively ended any chance of an offside meet-up with Forrest. We were escorted to the ground, and one of our lads got nicked. They nicked the wrong lad, by the way. Forrest were there near the ground when we was in the escort. The usual chants and insults were being traded, whilst the police were in the middle. They asked a handful of us to break away from the escort and go around the corner. We tried, but the police wasn't having any of it. Thank you for taking the time to watch my video. If you would like to see more, because I have many more stories to tell, then please like this video and click the subscribe logo in the bottom right of this screen. Thanks again and see you next time.